Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Underpinning. So I took that money and I invested it to go teach myself marketing. And that's how I started my first business.
Wow.
And so now I have a business. It's not overly successful. I'm surviving. But I still have all the problems I have, right? Sometimes I'd have headaches that could last 2 weeks, right? I don't leave. I barricade myself in the basement. I lock the door. You know, I'd have friends. I once had a friend. This is a true story. I once had a friend break through the screen of the window because people were so concerned for me, right? They were so unlike me to not see them or to not communicate. And so I'm going through this period. I'm building the business, losing clients, gaining clients, losing clients because I can't, function sometimes. And,
Right.
If you're hiring somebody, you want someone reliable, someone consistent.
No kidding.
And it wasn't until 2016, almost 4 years post-accident, 3 years into the business, that I had this moment where I started to realize, I remember this day, I was like, look, at this point, I'm like 315 pounds. And I'm incredibly overweight. I'm super unhealthy. I'm constantly spending time in bed. I'm depressed. And I said something needs to change. And, I can't change my headaches. I cannot change the physical pain. I can't even change the accident that happened to me.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I can change my weight. I wonder if I can change some of my health stuff. And so I started to take it day by day. And that sounds so cliche, but it was my reality. I said, I you know what? I can sit here and keep complaining, but that's got me nowhere in 4 years. And so I started to go day by day, week by week, just diligent, just working at it. And the next thing you know, over some time, I lost 150 pounds.
Wow.
My health improved. My mood improved. Obviously, I still have some lingering medical stuff, but I started to ease myself because I was like, man, I can't control everything, but there are things I can control.
Right.
What else can I take responsibility for? That mindset that changed my health, I then started to apply to business.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I always ask my clients when I start with them is I say, and I just think it's a good exercise for anyone to do, but I said, if something happened to you and you were knocked out for a month, what would happen to your business?
Yeah.
And more often than not, people answer and they say, well, my business would collapse or it'd fail or it'd go out. And I tell people, I say, well, you don't have a business, then you have a job.
Yeah.
Because if you don't show up to your job, you don't get paid.
Right.
So let's build a business that is you proof, essentially, because that's what I had to do. And so starting with that, the same things that I did to get my health aligned, I started doing my business, started to build systems, started to figure out, okay, what can I take ownership for? It's not my fault that accident happened. It's not my fault that I get those headaches, but I get to decide the rest of my story.
Yeah.
I get to decide what happens next. And I started to do that. And the business turned around, really started to grow. Went from there, started a real estate business, started to get into the real estate game. And yeah, it was absolutely incredible to build both of those businesses side by side using a lot of those lessons. And I did that up until probably about 2022.
So walk us through the moment that you made that decision. So the moment that you said, you know what, I'm overweight, I'm depressed, I'm right? What was that moment? What was the one thing that because usually it's something that triggers you, right? What was the one thing that just kind of pushed you to, okay, this has got to get done?
Yeah, I think that day in particular, I remember looking at myself in the mirror. I remember climbing a set of stairs and coming back down. I think I was going to get groceries or something, but being out of breath. And it was that enough's enough.
Yeah.
Like we can't do this anymore,
Yeah.
you know? And again, I've been, and I really try and tell people this as I work with them. I started to become fully cognizant that I was like, look, these things happen. I cannot deny that I am at the mercy, in a way, of all of these things that happen to me. I can't control it.
Yeah.
But what I can control is my response. What I can control is, can I build a plan? Can I seek out some accountability? Can I get people in my life that are willing to say, hey, you're 3 days in? That's awesome. Good job. Can I get people and build a team around me, of friends or family that are willing to encourage me when times are tough? And so I think for me, that moment when I realized, it was very much an enough's enough moment. And obviously so much has happened since then. And I've built on that mindset, but I think I just hit something. And I think in talking to people, I think we all hit that in our lives, right? Where, whether it's the pain, it's the grief. Some of us get there sooner rather than others.
Mhm.
But I think we all hit that point where it's like, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I'm done with trying to do it my way.
Yeah.
Or a.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience, and I lost 162 pounds.
Wow.
And it came from, I was literally, and I'm absolutely sure of this. I don't have any empirical proof. I know that I was over 400 pounds. And I was miserable. I was in triple extra large t-shirts, and they were tight, and I couldn't catch my breath. I was out of shape. I was, and I carry weight well. I don't carry weight like some people do. I carry weight well. So I look athletic, even though I weigh 400 pounds, right? But the thing that just sent me over the edge, I'd been having this conversation with myself for months, probably years at this point, that I got to get the weight off. I got to get the weight off. I got to get the weight off. And one night I'm at my son's basketball game, and he's on a team with his best friend. His best friend's dad shows up to the game. And he says to me, he says, hey, I've got good news. And I said, what's that? And he goes, if you drop dead tonight, I can resuscitate you. I can do CPR on you. I'm like, okay, you term school dropout, right? And he goes, no, seriously, I watched somebody die this morning. I watched somebody come back to life, and I watched a guy do CPR on him. And right. And I'm like, you watched somebody die this morning? He's like, yeah. He's like, we were at the club playing racquetball, and we heard a thud next door, and we hear help, 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 right? We go next door, and he goes, the guy that I'm playing racquetball with immediately jumps in and starts doing CPR. They shock this guy back to life, and they send him to the hospital. Turns out it's my wife's mechanic.
Wow.
Tell me that didn't hit close to home. He's 71 years old, zero body fat on him anywhere, plays racquetball every day like a beast. Okay. And here I am in my 40s, and I'm just, wow, right? I walked out of that gymnasium, and I made a decision that I was going to change everything. I was going to change my diet. I was going to change how I moved. I was everything, right? I stopped drinking diet sodas, and I lost 40 pounds because it was messing with my thyroid, right? So it just was one thing after another. But if that guy hadn't sat there, if the charm school dropout hadn't sat there that night and shared with me what he shared, right? That was the trigger. That was the thing that happened. That it was just like, okay, I walked out of the gymnasium with a whole different set of determination, right? And yeah, I lost 162 pounds, and I'm in the best shape of my life. My numbers are better than they've ever been, the whole thing. So in life, there are things that just, at some point you just get to your limit. You just get to where, okay, this is it. You know, and like you said, there's things you cannot control. But to your credit, you took control of the things you could control, right? And you figured out a way to get it done. And that's awesome. So 2022, you built these businesses up. What happens in 2022?
I got bored.
You're kidding.
The pandemic hit, and I was like, you know what? I need a new challenge. And, you know, by all accounts, life was good. I was, you know, very, very happy with a lot of things. But I said, you know what? I set out to build businesses,
Right.
not just for me, but to take care of my family. And,
Yeah.
you know, that was always the why behind my what. You know,
Right.
I watched my struggle. I saw my relatives, you know, even to this day, like some of them are working in their 60s and 70s. I was like, I'm not okay with this. I was not okay with this at a young age. And so marketing was great, but I said, you know what? I need a change. And so had a successful exit. And I said, you know what? Let's take a few months. You know, I can afford myself that off of the exit to just figure things out and, you know, maybe take a few months off. It'll be nice to take a few months off. I haven't done it in a while. That lasted maybe 4 weeks, maximum 6 weeks before I was like, oh man.
I'm thinking 4 days, right? It's like, you know, yeah.
Let me tell you, by the end of the first week, I was, so a bunch of friends, we get together and we co-work. We all have different jobs, different things, but we all work at a cafe together.
Yeah.
And we all just hang out, people do their stuff. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to keep showing up. And so I started to bug them because I had nothing to do. And I was like, so what you working on?
Yeah.
I was like, do you want help? Do you want help?
Yeah, what's the latest?
Oh, yeah. And so, you know, during this time, an old client was trying to get a hold of me. And I'm talking phone calls, emails, LinkedIn messages, and I was avoiding all of them.
Yeah.
I loved this client. It was probably my second client I ever signed for the marketing company. But I avoided it because I was 99.99% sure they wanted to talk marketing. And I was like, I'm done. I need a break.
Yeah.
I'm out. My next thing will not be marketing based. You know, it was great for what it was. And so I just avoided the calls. Finally, my now fiance called me out and she was like, why are you dodging those calls? And I was like, okay. She's like, give it a shot. So I got on the phone and the old client basically said, hey, like, happy for you. You seem to be doing well, but I actually never hired you to do our marketing, which felt like a bit of a slap in the face.
Right.
But they were like, no, we didn't hire you for your marketing. The thing I loved about working with you was you always brought the best out of us. You asked questions that nobody else was willing to ask.
Yeah.
And you were always, always honest about the state of how things were.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And they basically threw out a pitch and said, we'd like to hire you to do that. So this person owns 3 law firms. And they said, I want you to do that in all my law firms, all 3 of them. And I had this like, and I'm sure some of the listeners can relate to this. I had this like weird moment when I hung up that call where I was so over the moon, like, this is amazing. This is really cool. Like, who knows where this is going to lead? And there was also massive imposter syndrome where I was like, I'm not qualified. I didn't go to Harvard. I'm like, man, like
I went to school to become a pastor.
Yeah. Like,
right.
Like, okay, I duped this guy real good, but what's next? Like, what's happening? And and so I started telling other people just in my world, like, hey, I landed this client, I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden, some of my friends were like, yeah, I'm going to hire you for my business to do that too. And I was like, sorry, what? Yeah. And 1 became 2, 2 became 3. And next thing you know, I had a full business. Yeah. And now here we are 15 months later. And I'm sitting here honestly in awe because I realized that what I've always aspired to do, whether it was in pastoring, the marketing, real estate, my heart has always been, I want to see people, I want to help people, I want to inspire them, but I want to see them live all of the potential that's on their lives. Yeah. And that was one of my greatest fears as I lay there on my parents' floor, depressed, in pain, unsure, was, am I a waste of potential? Like, am I just not going to live out what I'm supposed to live out? Yeah. And so now in this business, I get to fully help entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders and I say, okay, what is it that you want? What are you struggling with? What are the things that are in your heart, that are in your head? Let me partner with you and get those things done. And you don't have to wait for a crisis moment. You don't have to wait for your business to fall apart, for your health to fall apart, like happened to us. You don't have to hear about your neighbor, a mechanic going through a health crisis. We can actually get you to the best version of yourself today. No fluff. No, I tell people, I'm like, listen, like if you want to grow, you could listen to podcasts, you could go read books. The reason why you bring me on is because I've done it, I've lived it, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to be in the trenches with you. This is not just some teacher student. I tell you nice things, you do it. We all sing Kumbaya.
Right.
No, I want to be on this journey with you. And so it's really worked for me. And I've loved every single step of the journey.
Well, it's rare, right? It's rare to have people that will tell you the straight scoop without the fluff. And I think part of that's the imposter syndrome, okay? Where they feel like they want to be telling you something that's up here, when really what they need to be doing is this is politically correct, right? This is real, okay? Yeah. This is where the pain is, okay? And we have this conversation nonstop on this podcast, nonstop, where politically correct is not going to get you to where you want to be. Telling you what you want to hear is not going to get you there. What's going to get you there is digging and getting to that pain and figuring out how you're going to deal with this. Okay. And part of that pain is you've got to be that big a movable object. Tell me I'm wrong. You have to be that big a movable object. You have to be that person that will sit there and go, okay, this is all great. Now we need to talk about accountability. Now we need to talk about you getting to where you need to be, to where you told me you wanted to get to. Telling them what they want to hear is not going to get them there, right? What's going to get them there is flat out accountability. And that's rare. That is incredibly rare in a coach, in a consultant, in a friend. Because how many friends have you lost over time that you were truthful with? That you literally stood there and went, okay, I'm really happy for you. And you with me?
Yeah.
And you're not friends anymore. Okay. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
Like everybody I work with, the very first thing I do is ask them permission. They have to give me express permission to hold them accountable. They have to give me express permission for it to sting. So years ago, our church that we were a part of merged with another church, and the two boards of elders merged. They, of all the people, those two boards of elders had massive conflict because our church had an older group. Their church was younger. Okay. So their elders were younger. Our elders were older, set in their ways. Okay. So they went to our pastor, who, by the way, to this day is one of my best friends and actually is the ghostwriter on my books. Okay. So they went to him and they said, we have this problem. And he said, listen, I'm the pastor of the new combined church. I have to recuse myself. I have to stay out of this. Okay. He said, but what I will do is I'll send you to Mike. Here's what you need to know. He's going to tell you the truth and it's going to sting. So just be prepared for that. Okay. So and every single person to a person called him back and he said, you're right. It was the truth and it stung. Okay. It is what it is. But every single one of them, I asked their permission to be completely honest with them. Okay. Because in the Christian community, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, but in the Christian community, we flower things up a little.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we think that's what people want to hear. And to an extent, there are people that want to hear that. The fact of the matter is that's not where you're going to make your progress. Where you're going to make your progress is where it's real. That's why what you're doing is so unbelievably rare, and it's important, incredibly important. Because when we're in the midst of building our business, in the midst of trying to keep our business, in the midst of, the economy's doing this and the economy's doing that and the market's doing this, and right, all these wonderful things are coming at us, not to mention, all the other slings and arrows, right? You're in a battle. It's that simple. And you don't need fluff when you're in a battle. You need the real answer. You need honesty. You need it you need it basically delivered right between your eyes.
No, it's so true. And I think, again, like it goes back to, for me, I try and be honest with people right off the bat. I say, hey, if you're looking for someone who's just going to encourage you, this isn't a great fit.
Right.
Go watch a Tony Robbins video.
Yeah.
Right. If you want someone who's just going to be obsessed with just personal growth, go listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
But if you want someone who is going to do those things, but more importantly, ask you, what is it that you want to do? And then hold you accountable to what it is you said you wanted, then great. We can have a working relationship.
Yeah.
And again, to tie back to what we said earlier, I think that that's something I very much, again, saw my parents do. I saw my mentors do. A lot of my friendships, I brag on my friends all the time. Like, so many of my friendships are a couple of decades old now. And it's because we have this understanding, this system. I heard it said this way once, and it really spoke to me. It's like, life is like a bank account, and you better hope that you have way more deposits than you do withdrawals, or you're going to be writing checks that you can't cash.
Right.
And I love that, because this idea that I'm like, man, if we deposit into people and we deposit and we keep pouring into people, then guess what? When it's time for withdrawal season, because we all go through that and we all get there, then there'll be plenty left in the bank. And I just want to build that kind of relationship with my clients.
That's what your dad did, and you got to watch him from sitting on top of that freezer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It prepared you for this. That is crazy. So cool. I love it, man. It's all come full circle for you. This is the coolest thing. And it's exactly why we do this podcast, by the way. Okay. So have you ever read Never Split the Difference?
No, it's so funny. I actually just started reading, or I just read the synopsis this week. It's Chris Voss, right?
Yeah, Chris Voss.
Yeah. So I was actually just reading up on him this week, and I'm about to order it. So it's so
Beautiful.
funny that you brought that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I've read it like 10 times. I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend it to everybody who's listening to, by the way. Chris is the man. Just so we're clear, Chris is the man. We're going to get him, by the way, as a guest one of these days. We're going to get his life story on tape. It's going to be fun. So let's talk about your website.
Yes. So consultingbyprime.com. So consultingbyprime.com. Go to it, reach out to me if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or leader. Or if you just want to connect with me, another great way, Instagram or LinkedIn, Matthew Sanjari, Sanjari. I just love connecting with people and just having conversations, exchanging stories like you and I are doing today, Mike. And so, yeah, either go to the website, consultingbyprime.com, or look me up on socials.
So I've already followed you on Instagram, and you have a connection request for me on LinkedIn. There
we go. That's awesome.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
No, honestly, just thanks for having me on. It's been an honor. You're a great interviewer, and it's been a lot of fun.
I've enjoyed every second of this. This has been so much fun. And I really, really thank you from the bottom of my heart for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Hope we can chat again.
Appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.